This Perfect Day by Ira Levin. So this book was copyright 1970, and the only other book I've read from Ira Levin is Rosemary's Baby, probably one of his most popular novels that he's written. And I was really impressed by that one. I had never seen the movie or read the book, and I really enjoyed that one. And I got a suggestion from a viewer, I think it was Seven Planets, to check out this one, This Perfect Day. And I looked this up. I didn't really even know Ira Levin had written any science fiction. I knew the Stepford Wives could have maybe got into the science fiction area a little bit, but I really didn't know he wrote this book, or I hadn't even heard about this book. So I found it at a bookstore a while ago. I thought I would finally get around to giving this one a read. Now, overall, I did enjoy this book. It definitely has some good aspects, but it also has some cons. I would probably give this a solid 3, maybe getting close to 3.5 stars if I had to, give it a rating. But let's just kind of get into what this book is about. So this is a dystopian science fiction taking place in the future on Earth. And when you start reading this book, it seems like it's kind of a utopia because there's no crime, there's no violence, everyone gets along, there's no nations, the whole planet Earth is one big family. There's no drug abuse or alcohol abuse. Everything seems to be, going pretty well for humanity. But Ira Levin does some really good world building. He does take some kind of familiar concepts, but he puts his own spin on it. And the way he writes the story, especially in the beginning and then in the end, is very captivating. There is a midsection that kind of drug on for me quite a bit, but the beginning of this one, he does a lot of like organic world building. And so I'm going to kind of give you the outline or the setup of this one, but you can't describe the society too much without kind of spoiling part of the novel, because as you keep reading through this novel, you keep getting more and more details about what's really kind of going on in this society. So right in the beginning of this book, there's this little poem, and I'll hold it up here if you want to pause and read that. It's a pretty clever poem, and we get 4 kind of figures here. We get Christ, Marx, Wood and Way. We know who Christ and Marx are. Wood and Way are like fictitious characters that he created in this novel, but between the 4 of them, they kind of set up the structure for this society, this utopia, if you will. And there's definitely the sense of communism here. There, like I said, there's no nations. It's all one people. You find out that there's very few names used. There's maybe like 6 names for the boys, 6 names for the girls. And then you get this kind of alphanumeric code after your name. And even if you're describing parts of the planet, since there's no countries, it's like a 3-digit code with a alphanumeric sequence after that. So you might be in USA with this code, and then you would kind of know you're in what used to be the United States, and the code would be kind of a geographic location of maybe a city or something. And if you were in AFR with a code, you would know you're on the continent of Africa, and that code would tell you kind of which city you were near. And he calls these nambers, which is kind of clever. It's like name and number. And so everybody has their shortened name. Like our main character, his name is Lee. It's just Li. But then he has a number after that, which is his sequence to differentiate him from the other, billion Lees that are out there, or close to a billion Lees, because there's about 8 billion people on the planet, and humanity is trying to spread out through the solar system and eventually into the galaxy. So we have bases on the moon and Mars and a couple other areas in the solar system. And all of this is kind of managed by a main central computer called Unicomp. You get the sense that there was multiple computers at one point, but they kind of brought all the resources in and put all their eggs in one basket, and they have this one kind of fortress that houses this computer. And this computer does all sorts of things. It monitors all the citizens that are on the planet. They have these bracelets, and they scan when they're going in and out of places, so it knows where everyone's at. It lets people know when they're allowed to have a child. It helps define what career each individual should get into. And so while this all seems like a utopia, you realize that it's coming at a cost. You have no personal freedom. Everybody has lost their uniqueness. Everybody's doing the same thing. They go and watch the same TV program every night at the same time. Their food are just these kind of nutrition cakes, and then they drink Coca-Cola, and that's it. And so there's no uniqueness, no free will to really express yourself. It's very sterilized in a way. And people know about the past. They know that things used to be different, but they associate it with this kind of like violence and all the things that aren't in this utopia. And so it kind of makes them appreciate their life more now. Now, they have to go in once a month to get this treatment, and you realize really early on that it's injecting some drugs or whatnot to kind of brainwash these people to go along with something like this. And we find out pretty early, our main character, Lee, his grandfather kind of thought a little differently than most members of this society. And he ends up calling our main character, he uses a nickname for him, Chip, because he kind of thinks he's a chip off the old block. He's maybe inherited some of his grandfather's kind of free-thinking ideas. And he plants a few seeds in our main character's head in the beginning of the novel to kind of make him think about some other things and the way life could be differently if he had the freedom to choose some things. So this happens with our main character, and he ends up kind of pretty early on meeting a group of other people. You find out there's this kind of clandestine group of people who start meeting here and there. It seems to be kind of a common thing, and he gets in with some of these. Like I said, it seems to happen fairly regularly because these people will get caught, they'll get told on by other members, and they'll go in and get treatments, and they'll be brainwashed again, and they'll go even thank the people that told on them for kind of curing them of this sickness they had. So that all kind of happens early on. And then our main character, as he gets involved with this group, you start to see more rebellion against the society, other like-minded people. He goes through some twists and turns, and ultimately leads up to a very great conclusion to this one. If you can power through some of the slow sections, the last section of this one is pretty action-packed. It takes some turns that you might not see coming. Has a really good conclusion as far as I'm concerned. So I'll talk about a few cons here. Now, this book was written in 1970, and there's definitely parts of this one that feel a little dated. There's some interactions between our main character and some love interests he has that probably didn't even read too well in the 70s. And there's a pretty graphic scene with some violence in it. So if you're a little sensitive to that, be warned there. And then, he took some ideas that some other authors had used and some concepts, and he did put a little bit of a spin on them, but it does feel a little rehashed in some ways. But his writing kind of brings the like literary quality of this up a bit. Like I think Rosemary's Baby was a better written novel, but this one is still better than a lot of the pulpier science fiction you're going to read from, the classic era. So, Overall, like I said, this is maybe a 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it. I'm glad I read it. And, I'm still looking for some other stuff from Ira Levin to read. I don't know if I would go with The Stepford Wives next, or maybe even A Kiss Before Dying. I think that's a mystery book he wrote. So let me know what other ones you've read of his, and if you got any recommendations, just let me know. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.